Hello, welcome to the show. I am Suzanne Lynn, and if you are a dog lover, you are going to love my next guest author. His name is Stephen McBrine, and he wrote a book called The Doggy Dog Stories. Welcome, Stephen.
Thank you, Suzanne. Lovely to meet you.
Nice to meet you also. Let's talk about the book. First of all, children's book. What genre does it fall under? And let's talk about the overall message.
Yeah, well, it's a children's book maybe for 6-year-olds upwards.
Mm-hmm.
But we also think maybe for adults who love dogs, basically.
I do too. Yes, I think you're absolutely right. It's a very special book. Share about what the overall message is in it.
Well, the message is the book is based on 4 actual dogs that I used to have, you see. And sadly, I had to rehome them 4 years ago after my late partner died. And I couldn't really cope with all the dogs on my own, you see.
Sure.
And like, to be honest, we had 3 dogs left because one sadly died prior to that, and prior to my partner. So it's a bit of a tough time. But the overall message is really an endangered breed of dog, the Glen of Imaal terrier. So it's nice to highlight that fact and to get people interested in the breed and knowing what they're all about, you see.
Yes.
So they're quite a unique, type of dog.
And what is the message in the story?
Well, it's a series of stories, so they are fictional. So in the first book, it's just getting to know the characters of the dogs and the man, as they call him, who looks after the dogs and owns the dogs. And you see, the man doesn't realize the dogs can talk amongst themselves and they understand everything the man says. So what happens is then the dogs do think the man is going to get rid of one of them.
Oh.
So there's a bit of a dilemma between the 4 dogs when they get together and discuss and gossip what's going to happen to one of them, you see, and they don't know who's going to be picked. But it turns out one of them's actually entered into the UK dog show called Crufts. And I won't spoil the end of the story, but you can imagine what happened.
What a neat concept, the idea that the dogs can communicate amongst themselves as pet owners. That's almost a dream come true to think that they're more siblings than we could even imagine. So you're really focused in on this one particular breed. Let's talk about what makes that breed so special.
I think when you look back at the history of the breed and how they've survived to this day, it's quite interesting. You see, during the reign of Elizabeth I, she hired some French and Hessian or German mercenaries to go over to Ireland to help quell the rebellious Irish. And I'm Irish myself, but we are quite rebellious. And after the conflict had ended and the rebellion was put down, she gave a certain amount of soldiers land in payment, you see. So they settled in the Glen of Imaal, which is a remote valley in the Wicklow Mountains. And with them, they brought their own low-slung hounds, as they were called. Okay. And they bred them with local terriers. And so the Glen of Imaal is the result of how they bred those dogs back in the day.
Wow.
So they were bred actually to kill fox and badgers and to kill the vermin on the farms. See? And what's unique about them is they are a sort of mute to ground kind of hunting dog.
Okay.
They hunt their prey silently. And I remember with like Keela, one of my dogs, when we used to go to the park, she used to look up in the trees, and if she saw a bird, she'd just sit there silent and watch the bird's every move.
Wow, the mind's going.
Yeah.
She's plotting and planning, yes.
And she was so fixated with that. It was amazing. And then when the bird would fly off, she'd try and chase after the bird, but obviously she couldn't.
No wings. Stephen, how did the concept of the book come about?
Well, you see, my late partner and I, George was his name, back in about 2008, we were looking through a book about breeds of dogs. And when we saw a picture of the Glen and read a bit about the history, we just fell in love with them instantly, you see.
Yeah.
And George had bred dogs years ago in his youth. So we decided to get 2 bitches, and George wanted to breed them. and he also became a judge at the dog shows, you see.
Okay.
So, so we always had this idea, though, about writing children's stories about them, because once we had them and you got to know their characters and what they were like, they
Yeah.
were full of fun and mischievousness.
A lot of
And
personality with these dogs.
yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
And I always remember Benji, the film, from when we were sort of younger.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, and it always just, and that was a bit of an inspiration, thinking, well, why not write stories about these dogs? And
Yeah.
if they could talk in real life, you would see the character and personality in them that you could write stories about them, you see.
Yeah.
And
Stephen, when did your love for dogs start? Because you have a deep passion for them. You're all in. Like, these are your babies. When did that start? And can you kind of remember why?
well, I think it's really like we never had dogs as children, so I think it's really when George and I met and we had our own Glens, you see, and because we never had children, I suppose they became like my kids.
Yeah.
And really they do take a lot of looking after and a lot of time and care, you see. So
Yes.
you do devote yourself to them, and they go everywhere with you, really.
Yeah.
So that I think that's where the passion came from. And
Well,
they give
share
you a
with
lot of affection in return.
Yes, yes, they do. Absolutely. The unconditional love that we
Yeah,
get from, always happy to see us when we get home.
yeah.
What was the process like going from an idea of writing this book to actually having it published? Was it a pleasant experience, first of all?
It's a bit of a long, drawn-out process. So when I met Raymond, who penned the stories with me, we used to discuss the characters and storylines, and he put pen to paper for 7 of the stories, you see. And so we sent off a few emails to some local publishers in London, UK, and we had 2 responses that were willing to publish the book, you see.
Right.
So then, with the process of that, we had to get an illustrator by the name of Jo Salmon, and she lives in Bournemouth, the UK. And we felt she did a great job, and we were very grateful to her.
Yeah, it's
So
beautifully illustrated. Yes.
yeah, so once she'd done her bit, we had to send all our stuff to the publisher. Then they had to take their time or doing a book cover and create the actual book. And there's lots
It's a lot of work.
and you have to proofread it, make sure you're happy with what they're doing.
Sure.
So it's a 12-month process.
What is the overall message that you want people to understand? What do you want them to feel or do when they are finished reading?
Well, we really just want them to have fun reading the book and enjoy the whole experience and just lose themselves in the story of the book, and really to get to know the breed and highlight the plight of the breed, really, because they are an endangered breed of dog.
Mm.
And if they don't build up the numbers of the dogs, they could become extinct.
Stephen, share about the Doggy Dog Song, because there's actually a song that goes with the book.
Well, I wrote a children's song with a theme tune in mind. So should a cartoon be produced? And we got a couple of local kids to sing on the track, and they enjoyed the whole experience of being in the studio and the song itself. So that was great. And it's on all the online music stores that you can download.
And just look up the Doggy Dog Song?
The Doggy Dog Stories song.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you so much. We'll put that website on right down there as well. Thank you, Stephen. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.